Well, joining me now are three of the best political analysts in the country. Ed Rollins, Republican strategist and former White House political director under Ronald Reagan. Syndicated columnist Miguel Perez, and Michael Goodwin, columnist for the New York Daily News. Gentlemen, thanks for being with us. You know, we have a new report, the Pentagon saying that Iraqi forces are in control of only 8% of Baghdad, and that U.S. and Iraqi forces only about half of Baghdad. This is very disturbing. The surge clearly is not, you know, as successful as we would like it to be. We hopefully would have Baghdad under more control. Your comments, Miguel?
Well, certainly not in Baghdad. That's what those figures show, and it is very discouraging. And we're wondering when it is that we're going to get some results out of the surge and sacrificing so many American lives.
It also contrasts very sharply with some of the comments that General Odierno said earlier this week. Michael?
It actually doesn't surprise me because, I mean, I've never heard the number put that way. But Baghdad was always the issue. I mean, that's where the surge has taken place. It was always because Baghdad was a mess, the sectarian killings. I think it's one measurement. There are many other measurements, car bombs, bodies turning up, that sort of thing. So it is disturbing, but I don't find it surprising because I think it is sort of fits with what was going on in Baghdad.
And also it contrasts with the comments that the president made in his national address recently.
Well, the critical thing here is they haven't stepped up. They have allegedly 400,000 people who we've been training now for 4 years. And I mean, it's, you know, we train a kid in 16 weeks and put him on a plane and send him over there and expect him to do battle, and he's out of there in a year. It's been 4 years. Yeah. And, you know, we have all these contractors that are running around to protect our embassy. It's just an absurd process, and I'm not sure they're ever going to step up to the plate.
Yeah, it's difficult to figure out that political equation the way it stands now. You know, I have another question to ask you, Ed. Senate Democrats this week failed to pass any measures to change the course of the war. What's your prognosis on this?
My prognosis is they've lost this battle. They had one option, and the option was to attempt to cut off funds. They didn't do that. They didn't have the guts to do that, and then they started tinkering. And I think that this would have been a very bad vote to basically say how you can use your troops as long as you're there. So I think it was a good vote for the Pentagon, a bad vote for Democrats, and I think at this point they have no place to go.
Mm-hmm. There's a big powwow this weekend to try to strategize. Do you think anything will come of it, Michael?
Well, as Ed said, there aren't many places to go. There aren't many techniques left, any strategies, any resolutions. I mean, I think the Democrats are boxed in, and had the surge not shown some evidence, had Petraeus not been such a good witness before Congress, I think things could have moved. But in fact, I think it's turned back against the Democrats. They're in a worse position now than they were 6 weeks ago. And so I think that now we're going to have to see, will the Iraqi government step up? Will the Iraqi military step up? And can the violence continue to fall? I think that's the game right now. That's what we're all watching to see. Mm-hmm.
You know, you bring up this whole issue of Petraeus. The Senate this week voted 75-26 to condemn the anti-war ads against Petraeus. And President Bush also criticized the Democrats for not failing to condemn the ads. Let's listen to what the president had to say about it.
Most Democrats are afraid of irritating a left-wing group like MoveOn.org, are more afraid of irritating them than they are of irritating the United States military.
Now, Miguel, does this ad backfire on MoveOn.org? Does this damage the credibility of the organization?
Absolutely, it has backfired. There's definitely, the extreme left is not helping the Democrats here. They're helping the Republicans, and that's what's ironic about this whole thing.
And the power of this organization, do you think it's in any way diminished, gentlemen?
I don't think, I mean, it spent $40 million last time. It'll spend it again. Has a new ad up today already. But I think at the end of the day, that they went way beyond the pale. And I think anytime a military person, and especially these generals who have all these ribbons and great years of bravery and history, and they put them up there and they lecture them from the podium, or you attack them, the country really gets worked up.
Yeah, I think one of the real casualties of this was Hillary Clinton. She voted against the resolution that passed. She was one of 25 votes against it. So I think 20 Democrats voted with the Republicans to condemn the ad and to support Petraeus. She couldn't bring herself to vote for it. And I think this is the kind of thing that marginalizes her, it defines people in a way that everyday rhetoric can't. She's now, I think, defined as being on the far left, as President Bush, I think, correctly said, more afraid of MoveOn.org than of their own military. That's a bad place for somebody who wants to be commander-in-chief.
Yeah, it's difficult thing to swallow. Let me just tell you about a new Zogby poll that came out this week, and let's put it up for our audience. I'm sure you've seen it, but our audience has not. President Bush at, let's see, 29% approval rating, Congress at 11. We're really talking about the bottom of the barrel, Miguel.
Well, you know, in the last round of elections, we expected a lot more out of the Democrats. We thought that they were going to have the power to end this war somehow. They haven't been able to do anything, and so you know, it's logical that the people are disappointed, both with the president and the Democratic-controlled Congress.
What does this mean politically? What does this mean for anyone who's sitting in a seat?
The interesting thing is Republicans rate the Congress higher than the Democrats do. So the 11% is even a higher number than the number of Democrats that are disappointed in their own party. Yeah. They think they didn't perform. They think they made promises in 2006, and they voted them in, expect them to do something, and they haven't done something.
Well, you know, the magic wand that was expected to be waved over Congress, how realistic was that?
Well, but I think that's part of the problem. The Democrats didn't really run on anything. They ran on anti-Bush. And, you know, since they didn't really define their mandate, the voters didn't give them one. They just put them in there because they were saying nasty things about Bush. Okay, now what are you going to do with the power? They didn't really have a plan.
This is the problem with a negative campaign, right? That you have to have exactly a solution ultimately. Yeah. And unfortunately, in Iraq and in this war, solutions are pretty hard to figure out. Gentlemen, we'll take a quick break and we'll come back. Ed Rollins, Michael Goodwin, and Miguel Perez. We'll be right back in a moment. Stay with us.
Justice come in two colors. CNN's Kira Phillips gets to the heart of the controversy. Judgment in Gina. CNN coming up next.
Make the move, make the move, make the move to Hudson Honda.
Make the move to Hudson Honda today and save. Take the Hudson Honda credit test.
Do you have a job, steady income, a stable residence? If you answered yes to all three questions, you could be driving today. With zero down or payments as low as $99 a month, this is one test you're gonna wanna take.
Hudson Honda's making all the right moves for you.
If you want to make money by working on cars like these, you can.
The automotive industry needs more technicians like Dave and me who know how to work with current technology.
We inspect and maintain vehicles and even customize cars.
But you know what's really cool? Getting paid to do what we love.
You can do this too. You just need the right training.
Why don't you call Lincoln Tech now?
For a free brochure, call 800-754-0138. That's 800-754-0138. Call now.
Since 1939, the Coach House has served Hudson County with good food at affordable prices. We'd like to thank you for your patronage and let you know that we're expanding to offer you a bigger and better Coach House. We'll still be open during our expansion 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so stop by with friends and family and enjoy. The Coach House, good food and plenty of it.
What national tourist destination has been voted the happiest city in America? Nope. But this city also has a huge historic park. Not that one either. This city offers international dining, fabulous shopping, a historic railroad, breathtaking riverfront views, the most contemporary art museum in the state, and a beautiful woman millions of people come from all over to see. Nope. It's Jersey City. Whatever your interest, there's something here for everyone. It's no wonder it was named happiest city in America. Make your destination Jersey City.
Joy Behar, the lowdown on the showdowns at The View. Larry King tonight.
We're back with three of the best political minds in the country, Ed Rollins, Miguel Perez, and Michael Goodwin. We had quite an interesting campaign week. Hillary Clinton calling Dick Cheney Dan Rather. And Darth Vader.
Darth Vader.
Dan Rather. Why did I say Dan Rather?
That would be a real insult to call him Dan Rather.
No, I was thinking of asking you about Dan Rather next. All right, Darth Vader. So let's hear what Hillary Clinton had to say.
You can always tell when the Republicans are restless because the vice president's motorcade pulls into the Capitol and Darth Vader emerges.
Okay, Darth Vader. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that it's uncalled for because, this candidate should be discussing the issues. It's kind of funny, and I guess that's what she was trying to accomplish, to throw a joke at a crowd that sympathizes with that kind of mentality. But, let's talk about the issues.
It's a little bit like stand-up, actually, when you watch it.
It didn't bother me. I mean, he is Darth Vader. Oh. I agree.
You agree with that, okay, Ed?
Actually, he himself called himself Darth Vader. He said, I'm not what they say I am, not hiding over in a hole and come out and I'm Darth Vader. So she was sort of repeating it when he comes to the Hill. I think Miguel's point is Hillary needs to really focus on the issues, and she needs to be responding with a lot of things relative to her own campaign. And, she can't do any more damage to Dick Cheney. He and this administration are already pretty well damaged, and they need to basically move forward on their own issues.
Yeah, fairly established antipathy between the two parties. Anyway, now let's talk about Dan Rather. And he is sticking by his story about President Bush's National Guard service. Here's what he said on Larry King Live.
You think the report was correct?
Yes, and I think most people know by now that it was correct. Keep in mind that Colonel Killian's, he's the deceased commander of George Bush, his secretary took a look at the document and said, everything in here is true. Yes, that's what he thought. Everything outlined in here. And by the way, I think there was a lot more in the president's military record we don't know about.
All right, so we're revisiting this whole issue again. Ed, what do you think?
I think it's going to be to Dan Rather's detriment. I mean, the bottom line is he was sitting on top of one of the major news organizations in the country. If the story was there, he could have gotten it. He was in a rush to get Bush. I don't think it matters. I think the country is moved past Bush, and at this point in time, they want to get us into dry dock and pass the baton.
Yeah, and politically for Bush, you don't think it's significant?
Dan Rather is sort of like MoveOn.org. I mean, he's so radioactive, I think, journalistically and politically, that he helps anybody he attacks.
Oh, that's interesting. Miguel.
The country has moved on Dan Rather as well. I mean, it's old news.
He's not a relevant figure anymore.
And quite the contrary. I mean, you have to remember, he took one of the most legendary men in the news business, Walter Cronkite, and not only pushed him out, he never let him back in the door. And I think to a certain extent, Dan Rather's getting his own just reward, and it's unfortunate. Speaking
of radioactive people, President Ahmadinejad is coming to New York. It has created an incredible furor, especially with Columbia University, who is rejecting calls to cancel his speaking engagement to the students. What do you think is, first let's handle the Columbia University issue. I mean, do you think he should be speaking to American students or not, Ed?
Yeah, I believe in freedom of speech. I don't think there's anything this man can say that's going to give him any credibility. But I do, this is one of the irritations I have about having the United Nations here. They can come through, they can tear this town apart, they can say anything they want, and they're only paid attention because they're here in New York City. If they were somewhere else, we wouldn't pay a bit of attention to them, and I think that's one of the unfortunate things of having it here.
Yeah, I don't think it's a free speech issue at all. Ahmadinejad has no problem getting a crowd. He can speak anywhere he wants. I think the issue simply, should Columbia give him the forum? It's not necessary. I mean, he could as I say, get a soapbox on the corner and have a speech, and thousands of people would show up to listen. I'm not sure what Columbia achieves by injecting itself into this.
The whole Ground Zero issue was a very big issue in New York.
I should say, too, Columbia's my alma mater. I still feel
as is mine. But we speak frankly at this table.
Columbia is my alma mater too, but I would only be happy if he gets introduced this way. Here's a man who deprives his own people of the freedom we're about to give him to speak freely.
Okay. Rudy Giuliani, let's talk about that. Addressing the NRA, he once branded the group as extremists. Now he seems to want to court them. 4.5 million members. What's that all about, Ed?
Well, first of all, he announced earlier in the week that he's one of the 4 or 5 most famous Americans in the world. And I think Madonna and Muhammad Ali and the two presidents.
Good to get that sorted out.
That needs to be sorted out a little bit. Now, those words will come back to haunt him. This audience is not going to this is a very active political organization. They know who their friends and their enemies are. And Rudy has been at the top of the enemies list. And to come make one speech and say, oh, I've seen the light and I'm going to change, it showed some bravery going there. But at the end of the day, it's not going to make any difference.
Do you think he'll persuade any other conservative members?
Well, I think what was interesting about the week for him was not so much the speech in itself, but I think the trip to London and meeting with Thatcher and Brown and Blair and Churchill's granddaughter. I think, as someone said, he touched all the erogenous zones this week, going after Move On, going after Hillary, meeting with the British prime ministers. It was a very good week for him. As for the NRA meeting, I would just give him one bit of advice. Turn off the cell phone.
Yeah.
My phone.
It's unfortunate.
My phone.
His phone just rang,
A
actually.
second ago, and I turned it off. I mean,
You didn't take the call, Miguel.
No, I did not take the call, and I'm not running for president.
Was it your wife?
I don't know. I didn't even look.
We'll find out later.
But it looked like this whole phone call thing. It looked like it was all staged, and it did not come out right. I think he's trying to pretend like he's a real family man. This is not the way to do it.
I don't know if it was staged, but it sure was good shtick. Anyway.
Well, he's a multi-family man. It's going to be very difficult for him to run as a family man. The other thing that sort of got lost in all this is he's hired on his campaign, which he's still not expanded much beyond his City Hall group. He hired a couple of the British operatives this week who are coming in to advise him on foreign policy or what have you. And I think that's a rather unique thing and not very beneficial in the long run to Republican credentials. We're not part of the Labor government.
All right, gentlemen, we have to hold it there. Ed Rollins, Michael Goodwin, Miguel Perez, thank you very much. We'll find out what that phone call was in a minute, and we'll be right back with Heroes, our tribute to the men and women who serve in this